Let's face it, from nearly all perspectives, we're going through a rough patch. Inflation, supply chain disruptions, rising gas prices. Utter the words green or ESG, and you're likely to be met with abrupt silence. At the same time, and I know this from living through a number of cycles myself, when times get tough, developers and property operators get what they call creative. Even with its precarious start, we've watched things like LED lighting, smart thermostats, even energy management achieve payoff models that were once a dream. It's safe to say that green has matured from a premium cost branding scheme to some seriously attractive payoff horizons. And now with green lending, developers see new opportunities and deals that may not have otherwise penciled. The bottom line, green has earned its way to become a legitimate business model with real payoffs. This goes for design and construction, but equally for facilities and operations. Today we speak with someone truly at the center of it all, Sanford Steinberg. Sanford's day job is partner and CEO of Steinberg Dickey Collaborative, a multifamily architect and planner. When he's not imagining new apartment communities, he's on the board of Home Innovation Research Laboratories in Washington, D.C. The lab creates and manages the National Green Building Standard. Back in July, we had Michelle Foster, VP of Sustainability with the lab on the show. We learned quite a bit about the great work being done there. So we're really excited to catch up with you, Sanford, to see what's happening in the green world, but also in apartment design in general. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Linda. And I just want to kind of correct you on one thing that I was on the Home Innovations Research Lab, but actually a few years ago, they asked me to sit on the consensus committee for the 2020 ICC 700, which is the National Green Building Standard. And to do that, I couldn't be on the Home Innovations Lab, Research Lab Board of Trustees because there's a conflict of interest. And so I happily stepped off the board to do this for multifamily, for NAHB, and for the Home Innovation Research Lab. And so it was a great process. I headed up the committee for multifamily, and it literally was, it was a 3-year process to create a new building code, which was really cool. It was fun.
Congratulations. Those are big shoes to fill.
It was great. And what I loved about it was when we got to our committee meetings, there were a lot of people in that room that were a lot smarter than I was. And I learned so much.
Sanford, let's start at the beginning. What do we need to know about yourself and Steinberg Dickey Collaborative?
Well, gosh, how long do we have? No, just kidding. But so I was raised with a father who's an architect. And so he was involved in residential architecture and multifamily. And he kind of was at the point where multifamily became a big industry. So he started at 57 and then got into apartments in the 60s. So as a kid, we ran around on our holidays. There's always a day that we would take to go look at product, to go look at communities and stuff. So I just kind of fell into it that way and just fell in love with it. So went to undergrad at University of Colorado, graduate school at UCLA. And when I graduated in 1988, we were in a bit of a recession at the time. Prior to that, my father had a business partner and they had grown to 20 people, but then overnight with the downturn, they were down to like 4 or 5 and they were not getting along. And so I told my father, I said, I'm graduating in a month. Why don't you get a divorce from your business partner and we'll start over, just the 2 of us and who else. So we actually started, there were 4 of us in 88. And he had the background, the clientele, and I was the hot new designer. And so that's kind of where we took off from there. So we're 50 people. Office here in Houston. We have a satellite up in Austin, and we have a lot of fun. You know, it's just great. So that was my love for it. That's how I got into it. Also, I have been blessed that some of my closest friends are in the industry, but they're on the management and marketing side. So because of that, I learned from them what the renter wants and what works afterwards. I mean, when I go to a property after it's been finished, the first thing I do is I go to the property manager and I said, tell me what works and what doesn't work. And don't be shy, because that's how we learn to modify our drawings and our communities to work and make them more pleasant for the resident.
The majority of your projects are garden, 200 to 400 units. Why is this the mix for success?
So that seems to be in the last 3-4 years where everybody is going with the golden bubble. And I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, but in our industry and talking with the builders, it all boils down to economics is number one. It's economics, and then location. So what's happened in the prior years is that all the great locations have been pretty much, in our major cities have been pretty much bought up. And what's left, which are good locations, are sites that have some issues, topography, water, wetlands. So, and they're expensive. So to build on those, you're going to a different product line, which is more expensive, and the economics don't work. So we went through years that we were doing 4 or 5 story wraps, looking at mid-rise and high-rise stuff. And then all of a sudden, in the past 3 or 4 years, the majority of the stuff have been the gardens. And a lot of our clients are like, it makes economic sense to do that. We can go out, we can find a great site. We can take the knowledge that we had when we're building inside the city, in the inner city and the inner loop, and bring that out there and give them that product, but in a garden style. And they're killing it. They're doing great. So, and now these days, no one knows what we're going to build because of the pricing. I mean, we just had a project today that we went through conceptual, and the clients came back and said, no, we're not going because we can build it, but the rents just aren't there to support it because of the construction cost right now.
So how have features, especially amenities, changed in the wake of COVID? And are these changes here to stay?
I get that question all the time. So I don't think the features have changed. We've added new things to the amenities and to the units and to the features. So we're still going to have our club room, our game room, our fitness center. But what we're seeing now is a lot more private workspaces within the commons area. So we used to do this business center. We used to have a big conference room that the residents can use. That seems to be one thing that's going away. And now we're seeing more 4 or 5 separate private work areas. So that way they can get out of their apartment if they're in a 2-bedroom or they have family there and be by themselves. The other thing that has really impacted the communities is package delivery, especially with COVID. So what's happened is the managers, a lot of the leasing agents were spending the whole day dealing with packages and taking away from their ability to manage and lease the communities. So Amazon, there's a bunch of other groups that have come out with package lockers, package rooms that the residents can go and do it on their own without dealing with management. So they can do it with codes, whatever. That's great. But when you get a bed delivered, someone's got to put that somewhere, which is always have a separate room for that. And we've been toying on how to create separate small little locker package rooms for each unit. So that way the delivery guy, the FedEx, Amazon can go, UPS can go to the actual unit, and it would be a lock key that they would have to open and put the package in, and then the resident would get it from the other side. We're looking at that. The problem is building code and fire ratings. So it can get very expensive to put a fire rated box that really has access on both sides, and maybe something that's just in the corridor or outside the door that the resident will go to, and that will alleviate the management for having to handle that. But that's kind of, as far as COVID, that seems to be the thing that has been the biggest. We are also seeing in our climate and in other nice weather climates is outdoor fitness centers. Those have really become something new and big, and they're great. We're doing them outside. Instead of putting grass down, they're putting turf, artificial turf down. And in a courtyard, it's sex appeal. It activates that courtyard. If someone's on the 3rd floor and they see their buddy down there, they're going to go down and go talk to them, even if they're not going to work out. So it's one thing, it's really nice for social interaction and stuff.
You have a number of projects categorized gardensity. What is a gardensity building, and how is it different from typical gardens?
So we came up with the guard density, and we kind of coined that name for the product. And we had a need from our clients that were buying land that was too expensive for a garden, but it couldn't support a 4 or 5 story wrap product because you had to build a parking structure and the rents wouldn't support it. So we came up with an idea, let's get the densities closer up to 40 if we can with surface parking. So basically it's a 3 or 4 story configuration building or buildings. It could be one large building with all surface parking, or a 3 story with larger buildings versus, in our garden, it's either a 24 or 36 unit building. So now we're talking about 52 unit buildings that have a central corridor, and then it's all surface parked. And what's nice about it, it brings it in a nice price point that really helps get the density up on land that, again, like I said, is a little bit too expensive to do a garden. So we're getting, densities from the mid 30s to the 40s, low 40s on it. So it's also keeping your pricing down to do it. So it's actually a nice sweet spot.
Genius. SDC has also designed microunit projects. Some have said that microunits can be the solution to affordable housing. Others say it's a short-lived fad. How do the economics of microunits compare to standard, and why don't we see more?
It's interesting. We've been doing a lot in the majority of our products, our market rate projects. We've been putting some micro units in the buildings. Maybe a dozen to 2 dozen in a 300 unit project, and they've always leased well. And they've always stayed leased. So we had a client that came and said, "We want to do 100% micros. We have an in-town site. Our whole concept is we're building right in the smack middle between downtown Houston and then the Galleria, which is another one of our business areas. So their idea was, we're here, we got all the restaurants in walking distance, we're on major transit lines. What we want to do is build a product that anybody can come live in, brand new, for around $1,000 a month. So to do that, the units were getting smaller, but you're getting all the amenities that you would get in a brand new community. There are 10-foot ceilings in there. It is a micro unit, like a studio. It's very common to see something like this in New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, Washington, DC. But now you're getting a great pool, a great amenity area, a nice fitness center. And not only that, your amenities are all around you. So you can walk to the restaurants, you can walk to a gym that's right there. The Bayou Walk, if you want to exercise, you can go down to there, you can walk to all this. So it's been a great product. Now the economics, don't know much about the economics, but I do know a little bit. I know with this one project, what really helped it work is that on the ground floor, there's 25,000 square feet of retail. So that really helped the economics in this community work. So it's ground floor retail and 5 stories above a wood structure of micro units. Also, the rents of a micro per square foot compared to a market rate are almost double. So on a 300 square foot unit, you're getting $3 plus a foot, where normally an 800 or 650 square foot unit in a market rate product is going to be around the $250 around there. So that helps with the economics get up a little bit higher.
So now that we know that you're a real power player with the National Green Building Standard, how many of your clients want compliance with these sorts of standards, and how do you expect this demand to change in the future?
So what's interesting, when it first came out many years ago, we were the first ones to do a large-scale multifamily community under the National Green Building Standard and the bronze level, and it was here in the south portion of Houston by the water, by where NASA is down here near Clear Lake City. So we convinced our client, we're like, look, we're building like this already. It's a few little things. You're really only going to spend a lot of your money on, not even a lot of it, getting it certified. We were already in our specs kind of building to that level. And actually today, even if the client doesn't want it, our specifications are, and the way we do our drawings are to the bronze level of the National Green Building Standard. We've talked to the contractors. They say it really doesn't add any money to the project. So we're like, great. So we're just going to do that. So if the client says, hey, we're doing GBS, we're like, we're in. We're already done it. We're at bronze. Do you want to go to silver? We have done a few in silver. We actually did the first silver in South Carolina, the first large scale. So over 200 units. Prior to the first one we did down in the Clear Lake area, they had like 6plex and 8plexes that had done it, but we were the first ones that did a 300 unit community. And once our clients saw that, and then their management and their marketing team saw it, and they really marketed that, and they saw the success they had with that, they're all like, yes, we want to do all of our projects like that.
So you were talking about, with regard to the bronze, a lot of features that really were no cost, no barrier. What green features are no-brainers for new multifamily projects?
So, I mean, a lot of it is a resident's not going to feel it. I mean, it's not touch and feel stuff. It's a lot of it is in the construction. So there's simple things of sealing, not the ceiling, but sealing with an S, sealing the walls to the floor, to the deck before you pour your lightweight on top of that, making the envelope solid so you don't have any infiltration. Better windows, now we have to do blower door tests to see what is happening in the unit. Is stuff coming in? Is air going out? Is there leakage and all that? So a lot of it is that, but a lot of it also is now a requirement of the National Electric Code. So that's pushed us so far too, to a point that we were probably already there with the NGBS years ago. So it's all kind of interesting. You're really not, it's just the little things. It's kind of hard to describe them. It's not things, like I said, like the resident's going to touch and feel. That stuff is where they'll come in and the owners will put in the Nest thermostats, or they'll start getting a smart home, or putting just your light switches that you can control with your phone. We don't see a lot of that, but we're seeing a lot of the Nest or other type of programmable thermostats that you can control from your phone through Bluetooth, which helps quite a bit. The other stuff that we do is it's already built in. Just the carpet, that doesn't gas off, with the toxic fumes. Same with the countertops, same with the paint. It's already built into it.
At the present, the vast majority of your projects are in Texas, but you also have projects in Pennsylvania, Florida, Colorado, and Nevada, and have worked in something like 30 states. How hard is it to adapt your designs to local regulations and requirements outside of your home territory?
It's very easy. And it all depends on, because we have the International Building Code, and the majority of your states, your municipalities are under some form of that code. Even when you go to North Carolina, that has our own state building code, it's based on the International Building Code. So that's the easy part. The hard part is zoning, because each separate municipality has a whole separate set of guidelines for their zoning. So typically it's very easy to find them online. Well, sometimes that's not so easy. And then it's just a phone call to find out, what is it, what do we need to do, and to get all the information. Beyond that, working with local civils help us, civil engineers, also mechanical MEP engineers who know the different climates, and we've worked in all the different climates. We know when we get up into a colder climate, there's certain house wraps that you put on a project. There's certain insulation, you go to a little thicker insulation. So we've been doing it so much, it's pretty simple. And then you go to Nevada, where it's dry as can be, and you don't have to put half the stuff that you put on in wet climate. So you just basically, you learn.
What a great show. Thanks for joining us, Sanford. I've learned so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is very nice meeting you. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the show.
Green continues to grow more and more serious and is moving away from the memory of its shaky start. Lenders and investors looking to boost their ESG portfolios, federal programs with attractive rates for green qualified buildings, and green amenities that are truly beginning to reach reasonable payoff models, even returns, giving the sector legitimacy and purpose. And through it all, folks like Sanford will make sure we've protected its hard-won value through measurement and tracking. Thank you for joining us. I'm Linda Hoffman. Look forward to our next exciting episode of NAHB Power Hitters.